My name is Jancel Bermudez,
Shay's Bermudez.
and we've been married about 4 years, going on 5 on June 23rd of this year. So,
That sounds about right.
I'm stuck on you, even when I don't wanna be.
Oh my god.
so
Some
some of the
interesting.
fondest memories that we have of our wedding day would be definitely, at least for me, waiting in the aisle, waiting for the bride to arrive, constantly trying to look back, seeing the crowd, and just waiting some more.
You're
But
trying
then
to
when they
cheat?
finally, huh?
You're trying to cheat?
No, not
Trying
at
to look
all.
back
Not
before?
at all. Get a peek before? No. Um, but when the time came and she arrived, I remember that. Um, Another one is the dance, where we had our first dance. And one that's particularly not common is when we got home that night, as we're going to head to the honeymoon, we encountered literally a bag full of trash with just maggots. And it rips open and it's just all on the floor. So that's how we spent before our honeymoon, our night, just cleaning up maggots. Like it was, yeah, just maggots.
Yep. I'll never forget.
How about you? You got a fun, you got a moment that
Yeah.
sticks out the most?
I would say definitely watching him like wait for me down the aisle and just the nerves and like I'm telling you, I don't know, like you're walking down and the nerve like you start feeling nerves in places you didn't even know you had nerves. And I'm walking down and it's just like watching him, not looking at me, but watching him stare and waiting for me. I'll never forget that. And then talking to him in his ear when we were like dancing. And just having our own little moment while everybody's there like crying and we're like talking to each other. So yeah.
So some of the hardest parts of marriage are definitely in the stages when there's a lack of understanding on either party. Um, I've come to notice this not only in matrimony, but in almost everything. The majority of problems arise from misunderstandings. Just the person is not understanding the other one or is misunderstanding them in some way or some shape or some form. And when that takes place and neither one of the parties are able to back away from themselves or their ego or pride and really recollect to the real moment and what's going on, then it's obviously difficult because you can't solve the problem. But let's see, besides that, honestly, everything else is workable.
Um Honestly, I think a big thing is just not putting yourself in the other person's shoes in that moment. Um, and I think a lot of times we just jump because we're thinking self, 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 and we're not putting ourselves in their shoes in that moment. So there's been so many times where like I'll jump the gun and like I'm thinking self, 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 but then I'll leave the room or wherever, and then I'm like, I'll think about it, and I'm like, that was dumb. Like, so I think it's super important to put yourself in that person's shoes. Try to understand why is it that they are saying what they're saying. Try to look at their view. It's literally like putting the other person first all the time. And then if you see that something isn't, doesn't align, then you can talk about it and say, hey, listen, I looked at your view. This is what I'm thinking. But other than that, I think if we're not like doing that, we're it's just not gonna work like that.
And could I add, piggyback off of her? And so just to tie it in with one word is the unconditional love,
Oh,
which
man.
again, which boils down to biblical marriage, right? That's how Christ has loved us.
Yeah.
That's how we're supposed to love our wives, and almost vice versa, right? Because they're supposed to keep on loving us as well, right? This is the call of every Christian, to love unconditionally, and that's hard. That's very hard to do, to love unconditionally. But
Mhm.
when done, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Some of the most joyful parts would be when everything is, buttery smooth, which in matrimony you will have ups and downs, but that's what makes those highs really high, right? Are those lows, and knowing that you've both overcome that. And so really knowing that you can stick together through the tough times and have those joyous moments when you're like with the kids and the family and spending it all together and truly looking into the eyes of the relationships of the people around you. I think those are the most joyful moments.
I would say it's the way that, it's your perspective and how you look at it. So embracing the craziness, embracing the stuff you don't understand, and just completely like trusting in God that He has you, that He is gonna help see you through it, see you guys through it, and just trying to embrace each moment, because each moment is a lesson that's gonna help us grow towards like what's next, because marriage is definitely an adventure. So just gotta buckle up and just see what's next and just be ready for it. It's interesting.
Some of the advice that I would give a couple that is getting ready to get married would be to definitely think about what they're getting into, to definitely get marriage counseling. That's one thing that I think helped us. It helped paint things and put things in perspective. For example, one thing we didn't even think about, which wasn't too big of an issue for us, but it can be, and it's like different belief systems, right? How would we then implement that into the kids if we do have future kids? And those types of questions that come from marriage counseling, I think, will definitely align the spouses' minds so that they can avoid problems down the future, because that can be a very nasty fight, right? I mean, once you have the child and then you're both trying to fight which over worldview you want to raise the child with, can lead to may lead to a divorce or something that is horrible, or maybe not a divorce, but a lot of fighting and quarreling within the matrimony, which is not good. So that can be squashed from the very beginning with marriage counseling, which I think is good. And then really get a good grasp on biblical marriage. Just what does it mean? What is the point and purpose of it? And understand unconditional love. Those would be my advice. And then for 5 years down the road, for 5 years down the road, for after they've been married, is that part of it as well? Okay, so for these 5 years down the road, and things may be grim, like I said, in matrimony, there's these peaks and valleys. And it's to understand that when you're in the valley, there will be a peak. All you have to do is keep on fighting forward and not give up. And if you do have that mindset, it can be hard in the valley, but again, understanding all the other stuff helps in those moments so that you can get to the peak and enjoy those as well.
Yes.
What you got any advice?
Yeah.
Maybe for future brides,
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely would say the marriage counseling, like he was saying, before the marriage. So this counseling is before the marriage. It's definitely very helpful. It's gonna help you open up your mind and your eyes to like things that you probably didn't even think about. Because once you, like he said, you incorporate kids in the marriage, that it definitely can become serious, like it gets serious. So definitely that. I also would say to be grounded in your mind, then if you are a follower, to make sure that your relationship with God is grounded. Because if that relationship is like not there, you can't expect your relationships to flourish or to grow. That's like super important. And I think for wives, just to understand that there is gonna be times where you have to die to yourself. And when I say that, I mean, you have to understand that in a marriage, there's gonna be times where you have to pick and choose your battles. Like not everything is needs to be discussed. Not everything needs to be like argued about. Pick and choose. And just yeah, pick and choose your battles and a lot of praying. A lot of praying.
So unfortunately, we did not have a videographer at our wedding, but it is to our regret. Um, One of the reasons we didn't have one was just we didn't really see, not the importance of it, but just we had a photographer there and we just thought, this is enough. And again, we had a very simple wedding. We just kind of wanted to get done and over with. But looking back in retrospect, it definitely would have benefited a lot. Just because it's a solid memory, like literally, you have a memory you can just look at. As long as you have some type of way of viewing it, you will have that always to be able to recollect and look back on, and no matter the time, it's there. So I do hold that to regret, but there's always the future. So yeah.
For sure. I definitely would say it is unfortunately because down the line, like I want to have those moments where like you sit with the kids and you like pop in videos, and not being able to like show the kids that moment, or because talking about a memory or like looking at pictures it's just not enough. Like having something that, like he said, your actual mind, like right there, because life goes on and we forget things sometimes, moments. And I think with video, like you'll catch words or moments, or you might even see things that you don't even notice like happen in the background, or something funny that you can laugh about. So I do like definitely regret not having video, but like I said, there'll be a renewal of vows, and hopefully we can have all those things.